With every passing day and with every passing week, Tony Khan is becoming more and more like Vince McMahon. We hear about it with certain talent, most notably this week with Ricky Starks, how Tony Khan is becoming more and more petty. Rey Fenix and Penta were supposed to be heading to WWE, and Tony Khan put a stop to that almost immediately. More so with Rey Fenix, and now it is official. Tony Khan has no plans on using Rey Fenix on AEW television, and I got the latest on Tony Khan keeping Rey Fenix behind bars in AEW. I got the latest on Penta and when he will join WWE. I got the latest on Jade Cargill's mysterious injury. She's injured, then she's not injured. Is it a work? Is it a shoot? I got the latest on that. Drew McIntyre update on when he will be back on Monday Night Raw, and the same goes for Alexa Bliss. We're hearing rumors about a return. When is she coming back to WWE television? All this on today's Black Friday edition of Off the Script, and we will start with Mr. McIntyre. Drew McIntyre's absence has been felt on Monday Night Raw, and he's been absent since his brutal Hell in the Cell match with CM Punk at Bad Blood in October. Now, while no definitive plans are in place yet, various ideas and pitches have been discussed for McIntyre's reintegration back on Monday Night Raw and him back into storylines. This news comes after McIntyre required 16 staples following his Hell in the Cell match and took time off to address some family matters. McIntyre's return is highly anticipated, especially given his excellent work this year on the mic, in the ring, on social media with CM Punk, which probably resulted in the best feud in all of pro wrestling for 2024. Now, if he's coming back to Monday Night Raw, I genuinely, personally, don't know where he fits in. The last thing that we saw was McIntyre get into it with Wade Barrett. Obviously outside the CM Punk story, but Wade Barrett was, on more than one occasion, integrated into either saying something to Drew McIntyre off microphone, on commentary, pulling him away from some post-show media junket where he was upset. I believe that happened after the Scotland show, and Punk was the special guest referee. There's been some tension there between lifelong friends, Drew McIntyre and Wade Barrett. Now, rumors did correlate at the time that Wade Barrett potentially might be looking at an in-ring return, or at least a one-off, to maybe close that part of his life and close that chapter on his career. And there's no better man to be in the ring with if you're Wade Barrett than Drew McIntyre. I was wondering then if they may be setting something up between those two, resulting in a WrestleMania match between Drew McIntyre and Wade Barrett, giving Wade Barrett that moment and having him end his career at WrestleMania. I don't know if that's the direction. That is certainly one of the directions that McIntyre could go in. Obviously, you hear McIntyre, you think World Championship, maybe a match with Gunther, maybe a feud with Gunther. I don't think that's the direction, as I do think that with McIntyre losing to Punk and with him being off television, there are other people in place there that are going to be ahead of him for a World Championship match. But then you hear WWE is kind of being laxed. They got relaxed rules now for the WWE brand split. Monday night's moving to Netflix. SmackDown's going to 3 hours in January, reportedly. Raw is going back to 3 hours. That Netflix show is going to be one of the biggest shows that WWE's ever produced, and all men and women, all hands will be on deck. Who does Drew McIntyre feud with in WWE? It might not be on Monday Night Raw. The answer might not be on Monday night. The answer could very well be on Friday night. We don't really know. But McIntyre back on WWE television in any capacity, I think, is a great get for WWE. He is certainly missed. He brought a level of just intensity, and he just brought a very, very upfront and noticeable upgrade to the show. And you see that since Monday night moved back to 2 hours with this little deal that they got going on with USA Network to land Monday Night Raw, at least from October up until the end of the year. He hasn't been on the show. And you see that his presence is missing. You feel that Rollins' presence is missing. Punk's presence is missing. It's a big aspect to the show that hasn't been there, and the show really hasn't felt as lively as it was during the beginning of the year, during the summer months. It just hasn't been the same. So I don't really know where we're going with Drew McIntyre, but it now is opening that up to be a wider pool of opponents because the brand splits are going to be lax. So if you're looking at Monday Night Raw, don't specifically start looking on SmackDown because McIntyre could come back and feud with somebody on SmackDown going into 2025. We don't really know right now, but I think Wade Barrett should be, at least creatively, the leading candidates or one of the leading candidates for McIntyre's return feud going into WrestleMania season. Alexa Bliss is another name that has been in the news lately. Fans are talking about her return, rumors swirling about her potential return to the ring, and fans are speculating if she will be involved, obviously, with the Wyatt Six. PW Insider first broke the news several months ago that WWE was planning for Bliss to make her comeback after the holiday season, and sources say those plans are still in motion. Now, while the exact date and details of her return remain under wraps, the belief is that Bliss will likely be back in time for WrestleMania season, which kicks off, obviously, with the Royal Rumble in February. Now, it's possible she could return even sooner, but WWE is carefully considering the best way to reintroduce her into storylines. Bliss was absent from WWE television since the Royal Rumble in 2023, where she lost to Bianca Belair. She and her husband, Ryan Cabrera, welcomed their first child earlier this year, and Bliss has also been addressing some health concerns personally. With the WrestleMania season obviously going to be here before you know it, anticipation is building up for what she's going to be doing and her return. Fans are eager to see what WWE has in store for Alexa Bliss and if she could be integrated into the Wyatt Six program or just get back into the women's division, which she does very good heel work and could be an asset to that division, which now is introducing an Intercontinental Championship on Monday. And on the flip side, Friday is getting a Women's United States Championship. So she could be back in action and do basically anything she wants. Now, there's a whole new world that is looking at her when she gets back in 2025. I would wait for the Royal Rumble, and I would wait for that moment to bring Alexa Bliss back to television. I think a return before then is actually taking away from her. I do think that all eyes will be on the Royal Rumble, and I do think that with her star power and her name value to the WWE Women's Division, I think that's the best place to reintroduce her to the WWE audience, and then whatever the plans are, build whatever she's got going on to WrestleMania, and I would assume that she fits right into the Wyatt Six. There's a built-in storyline there that they could basically come up with for Alexa Bliss because she was a big part of Bray's universe, especially during the whole Fiend era. I do think that there is a story built in there, and a lot of people were critical of WWE with Alexa being involved with Bray in the beginning, and then the way we saw it play out. She basically took his powers, and Alexa became more evil than Bray Wyatt did as The Fiend. It was almost as if The Fiend was in a trance. It was almost as if The Fiend was weakened by Alexa Bliss. And you saw what happened as a result of that. He was never the same. So I feel like if Bo, his brother, is now playing the lead in the Wyatt Six, and Uncle Howdy is the biggest figure in the entire group, I do think that we need some sort of resolution to that. And I do think, don't put Alexa Bliss in the Wyatt Six. Don't integrate her as this evil Alexa Bliss. We've been there, done that. You got Nikki Cross in there now who's playing the role of Sister Abigail, so Alexa Bliss isn't really needed. I feel like if we do Alexa on television, bring her back and have her go against the Wyatt Six and have her go against Nikki Cross, I feel like that's a built-in storyline. And I would actually play off Alexa and Nikki's history as well, as they do have a brief history. And I would have Alexa Bliss and Braun Strowman together, and I would have Braun Strowman integrated into the Wyatt Six story, and I would build off Alexa and Braun's history and Braun's history with the Wyatts. I think that's all something that needs to come full circle. So I do think that those pieces need to be applied here, and I do think Alexa coming on in, doing her thing with Nikki, playing off her history, Alexa coming in, using that partnership with Braun Strowman and using his history with the Wyatt Six and Bray Wyatt and the whole family. I think all that stuff needs to come into play. I do think that's probably what's best. Outside that, I don't really know what Alexa's doing. If you do anything else, I feel like it's going to fall flat on its face, and I do think it's not going to be as interesting. I do think she needs to come back and be integrated in story. She's not the best pro wrestler that they have, and she's a great character on screen when she wants to be a heel. But I don't think that there's enough interest there. I do think that she needs to be revolved around story, and the last thing that we saw from her was that she was in story, and she played her character and her story well in the Wyatt universe. I do think that bringing her back and putting her in that universe is probably what's best for business, but it's got to be carefully constructed where she stands on her own, is not directly involved with the character-based Wyatt Six, but going against them, I do think that's the best thing for her coming on back. We got an update on Jade Cargill. Now, you last saw Jade Cargill on Friday Night SmackDown, and she was laid out on the front end of a vehicle, and she was written off television. Now, apparently, she was injured, and the report going around was that there was a neck injury and that she would be out. Then I heard a ACL, MCL type deal where it was minor and she'd be out 3 months and be back just in time for WrestleMania season. Now I'm hearing that there is no injury and that all of this is part of one big constructed storyline. Fans are speculating on what to believe when it comes to Jade Cargill's status. This is the most Jade's been talked about since she's got in WWE, since that very first day she was signed. This is the most interest that Jade Cargill has been getting since she joined the WWE. The injury angle happened a week ago. It is now the story in the women's division, who attacked and who took out Jade Cargill to a point where she's not going to be able to compete at War Games. It was originally believed Cargill would be out of action for a while after WWE filmed an angle in which Cargill was laid out on top of a car during an episode of SmackDown. Dave Meltzer reported that Cargill's absence from storylines was to cover for an actual injury, with the belief that she would be out of action for at least 3 months, if not longer. WrestleVotes came out with a report noting that he heard WWE is planning to strip Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair of the women's tag team titles. However, PW Insider is now reporting on Thursday that they were told Cargill is not injured and the mystery attacker angle is nothing more than a storyline. Dave Meltzer goes on top of PW Insider's report and claims this morning that several versions are going around, including one that covers up a legitimate injury. One person supposedly told Meltzer that it seems like nobody, including her friends, knows what the actual injury is or why it happened. A WWE higher-up claims she was injured, and the stories denying it are false. In another version, the injury was done to create a political backstage issue. One theory behind the mystery attacker is that it could build to the eventual split between Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair, which my original opinion on it was exactly that this is probably going to be used to split Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. And for all we know, Bianca Belair is the one who orchestrated the attack on Jade Cargill, and they could come up with a right story, a good story, just based off that alone, making Bianca the one who took her out. Dave Meltzer came out to say today that it was a backstage political issue, that she's injured, that he heard from somebody that she's injured, and the stories denying it are false. Dave Meltzer's track record this year is not very good. I'm not going to go over every mistake that he's made, but you guys know as well as anybody, I know as well as anybody, that Dave Meltzer's reporting this year has been absolutely the worst it's ever been. I don't know why anybody believes him. I don't know why anybody would take what he says as fact. And WWE at this point in their stage and their partnership with the dirt sheets and the media, they are more likely to feed Meltzer some bullshit, and then he runs with it as if he thinks he has some solid sources there. But in actuality, he doesn't have any solid sources there whatsoever, and they're out to make him look like a fucking idiot. I'm going to go with Mike Johnson. I'm going to go with PW Insider, and I'm going to go with the fact that this is probably a very well orchestrated story, that she's not injured. Let's be honest. What has she done that she got an injury? I mean, injuries can happen at any moment, but she doesn't really go in there and do much of anything. It's mostly Bianca, and then Jade comes in and gets a hot tag, and she does 2 or 3 spots, and the match is over. I mean, she could still get injured, but the likelihood of that is very low. I don't really understand how everybody is, oh, she's injured and she's going to be out. My first inclination was probably a complete fabrication and a storyline. I couldn't really pinpoint. I actually went back and watched a couple of her matches before the injury. I didn't really see anything jump off the screen to me or jump off the page as far as, yep, that's an injury. That's where it happened. Nobody's talking about it. So I would lean towards this is a very well orchestrated story. And I do think that WWE, especially in the Paul Levesque era, they love to play up the fact that something is serious and that it's legit, and then it ends up not being that. That's what Triple H does. This is his MO. So he's done this all through his black and gold phase. We don't know what's real. We don't know what's stage. We don't know what's work or shoot. I love it. And it keeps fans guessing. I'm going to go with Mike Johnson on this, as he's been more accurate and more correct this year than Dave Meltzer has by a large margin. And I'm going to go and say that this is a complete fabrication and a work. It's a shoot. It's a work and a storyline. It's not a legit shoot injury. So that's what I'm sticking with. But now she's off television. She's out of War Games, and she's still one half of the tag team champions. What do we do with the women's tag team championships? Well, the plan is, according to WrestleVotes, and I mentioned this in the previous report, WrestleVotes are hearing that WWE will strip Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair of those tag team championships. He says, again, I'm working on nailing down the details, but I'm hearing they're going to have to strip both Bianca and Jade. Yeah, these belts are cursed. It happens time and time again. Well, if it's a complete fabrication and a worked injury, I won't really say that they're cursed, but I would go out there and say that WWE doesn't really value the women's tag team championships like some of the fan base does. They're worthless titles. So WWE is now introducing a United States Women's Championship and an Intercontinental Women's Championship on both Raw and SmackDown. We have now 2 mid-card titles on top of 2 women's world championships, the WWE Women's World Championship on Monday and the WWE Women's Championship on Friday. Why do we need 5 sets of championships for the women's division? It is nowhere near the depth of the men's division, yet we have 5 championships, and your focus is now going to solely rely on the IC and the United States Championship. By default, the tag team championships are going to be absolutely irrelevant. All of your tag teams, outside maybe one tag team, and that's probably Casey Catanzaro, Katana Chance, and Kaden Carter, are a legit tag team. And even they were singles wrestlers on NXT before they actually paired them up into a tag team. And they are one of the true tag teams in the women's division. Outside that, I can't really say the tag teams that they got in the women's division are legit tag teams. That's been their problem since day one. There is no legit, just ready-made tag teams. Everything in that division as far as tag team wrestling are 2 singles wrestlers paired together, and WWE is forcing a tag team division with their existing roster, and no real tag teams exist. It's basically what it boils down to. There's not one real tag team in that division. Everyone in that tag team division is a singles performer. So what you do is you end the championship reign of Bianca and Jade. You get rid of the championships completely. You got rid of the ones on NXT. Don't see what the big problem would be if they got rid of the ones on the main roster. Get rid of them. Admit failure. You're going to go all in on the IC title and the US title. Focus on that. I don't know why you're a part of one of these tag teams and you're focusing on the tag team championship. It's going to be stupid. You're going to be in these tag teams, and everybody in these tag teams are in these tournaments set up for both of these titles. You're not going to care about the tag team titles. You're going to go after the singles championships because you want the prestige that comes with both the Intercontinental and the United States Championship. The women's tag team championships have no lineage, have no history, and they are worthless. Just get rid of them. So Bianca and Jade, if I'm in charge, if I have the pen, I'm getting rid of them, and Jade and Bianca are the last women's tag team champions in WWE history. You tried it. It's been done. It's now failed. You're moving in a different direction, so you should move in a different direction with the women's tag team titles. Pentagon Jr. and Rey Fenix. This story pisses me the fuck off because more and more we hear that Tony Khan is more and more like Vince McMahon. We heard about the Ricky Starks situation earlier this week. He pulled Ricky Starks from all independent shows that GCW are doing. He pulled Ricky Starks from 3 GCW shows. Ricky is still able to work on other independent shows, just not GCW, and it stems from what Brett Lauderdale has done, and it stems from what Effie, who works for GCW, said on his podcast in regards to Tony and his father. He made things personal, so I don't really blame Tony for pulling Ricky Starks from any of those shows. He has every right to do that, and he's allowing Ricky to work wherever he wants. Now, it sucks that Ricky's not on AEW television, yet we got fucking Tomohiro Ishii and Chris Jericho on Dynamite doing nothing but slapping the shit out of each other in an embarrassment of a title match on Wednesday night, and Ricky's not on TV. But, I mean, that's neither here or there. I don't want to beat a dead horse and talk about how awful AEW television is and that Ricky Starks is going to be the saving grace. No, he's not. I don't think Ricky Starks is going to be the savior that we all think is needed for AEW television. But he should be on television, more so than some of the people that he's actively putting on television right now weekly. Rey Fenix and Penta are 2 of those men. Now, Penta had time added to his contract, but his contract is about to come due this week. So Penta's contract is going to be done, and he's going to be able to sign wherever he wants and go wrestle wherever he wants. The rumor is he's heading to WWE. Good for him. But what does that mean? What does that mean for Rey Fenix? AEW has no plans to use Rey Fenix and no plans to let him out of his contract so he can sign with the WWE when his brother does. Penta's deal is coming up. Phoenix's contract is still on and will go into 2025 with AEW. Fightful reported this week that Penta's contract with the company is up very, very soon, imminently. But Phoenix has a lot more time left on his. When speaking to those with knowledge of the situation, it was claimed to Fightful that Rey Fenix AEW contract extends well into next year due to the injury time that will be added to it. Phoenix and Penta were expected to wrap up with AEW in the fall and head to WWE. I don't know who is paying attention enough, but I do think with the rumors that we heard about the Motor City Machine Guns going to NXT and them being integrated into NXT on Tuesday nights, WWE had aspirations and hopes that Penta and Phoenix would come on into the WWE when they expected, and they would make the jump to the main roster because Penta and Rey Fenix did not want to go to NXT, and the Motor City Machine Guns were okay with going to NXT. I do think that because of this situation and the fact that WWE is not getting the Lucha Brothers, that a decision was made to move the Motor City Machine Guns to SmackDown because of this situation, because of Tony Khan's pettiness and him not letting Rey Fenix out of his contract, and the WWE was not getting both Penta and Phoenix at the same time. So I'm sticking with that. So at this point, they were expected to wrap up, head to WWE, but when AEW caught wind of this, petty, they added injury time to both of their deals. Now, we've not heard, says Fightful, of creative plans for Phoenix, but at one point, Death Triangle were slated to win the AEW Trios Championships at All In. I don't know why that would have been the case. I would assume to give Pac his moment at Wembley in his home country, but I don't know on the side if that would have been used as some leverage to maybe get them to resign. Oh, hey, look, we got plans for you. We'll give you the Trios Championships. That's the same thing they did with Danny Garcia. Yeah, we got plans for you. We'll give you the TNT title, man. We're going to give you a big win over Jack Perry. Come stay with us, man. Don't go over there. We got plans for you. If you consider the TNT title plans, I mean, that's on you, man. I don't find that to be the greatest creative decision that AEW could possibly give Danny Garcia, but he took the money, and I don't blame him. So reports from the Wrestling Observer indicate that while Penta's AEW contract expires this month, paving way for a potential debut with WWE, his brother Rey Fenix is in a different situation. Phoenix is reportedly under contract with AEW, and no plans are in place for him to be used. This effectively means he will be paid to remain inactive for the duration of his contract. This news has sparked debate, with some criticizing AEW's handling of Rey Fenix situation. However, it's important to remember that Tony Khan has previously raised concerns about alleged contract tampering by WWE. Furthermore, the practice of retaining talent, even without utilizing them on screen, is a strategy WWE has employed for years. While Penta's potential move to WWE opens up some exciting possibilities for his career and some great matchups on WWE TV, his brother's future remains uncertain. Presumably, he'll end up in WWE, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. So Penta's deal is up imminently. Phoenix's deal, no month was given, no time frame was given. We're all speculating right now that it's probably third or fourth quarter in 2025. Tony Khan was a guest on Chris Jericho's Talk is Jericho podcast in 2019. You know, I'm catching wind now more and more. Every single day I'm on social media. I think Fightful or SAP tweeted out something in regards to the Ricky Starks situation and him being pulled by Tony, and people were in an uproar that GCW was not getting Ricky Starks for the 3 scheduled dates that he was given. And all through the thread, all I heard was, and all I read was, Tony's becoming more and more like Vince minus the sexual allegations. Who's been sparking that debate? Who's been telling you all that is the case? This guy right here. Ever since I started saying that, people have been, no, you're wrong, man. I don't see any Vince in Tony. Now you got Fightful side saying it. It's very weird. Who was right once again? I was. And if you go back to 2019, February 2019, Tony Khan was interviewed by Chris Jericho on Talk is Jericho. He had this to say about Vince McMahon. He admitted that WWE then chairman Vince McMahon is one of his idols in business, and that Khan has been a lifelong fan of WWE. Moreover, Khan noted that AEW is not at war with WWE. Vince McMahon is one of my all-time idols in terms of building a brand and sustaining a great company. And some of the greatest matches and stories have been in the World Wrestling Federation and Worldwide Wrestling Federation. So yeah, I'm a lifelong fan of their product. So it's crazy to think that Khan is the Vince McMahon of AEW. I don't think that is the case, that AEW and WWE are at war. He says it's crazy to think that Tony Khan is the Vince McMahon of AEW. Why do you need to hear it from me when that same sentiment is coming from the man himself? And now it is devolved into where it is in 2024 going into 2025. How many talents are going to suffer mentally because of Tony Khan's pettiness, Tony Khan taking his frustration out on talent in the way that he's taking his frustrations out on Rey Fenix? Tony's got nobody to blame but himself. If the company was running like the well-oiled machine that Kenny Omega fucking foolishly went out on Fightful and said, which I don't know what the fuck he's watching. If they were the well-oiled machine and things were great and story was great and everything was great and people were watching the show on a week-to-week basis with vested interest and had that emotional tie-in to what they were doing and what they were telling as far as stories and that emotional tie-in to all the characters on TV, don't you think that someone like Rey Fenix would want to stay with your company? Don't you think that someone like Pentagon Jr., one of the most fucking fabled tag teams that they've had, one of the most decorated tag teams in the entire world, two of the best Lucha Libre wrestlers, which Tony loves in the world, don't you think they'd want to stay? I think they would. All they want is to be treated with respect, and all they want is to be better off than where they were in 2019 when they first joined the company. These two guys started the tag team division together. They were the breakout tag team in that division. They were must-see television. They gave AEW that heart and soul, which is obviously now, funny enough, missing from most of their television program up and down the company. I find it funny as well that Tony Khan loves Lucha Libre. Tony Khan pitches a tent in his fucking jumpsuit every single week over Lucha Libre matches. Commander, Hologram, Beast Mortos, you name it. He's got CMLL guys coming on a Lucha Libre edition of AEW Rampage on Saturday night at fucking 6 p.m. when Survivor Series hits the airways on Peacock. Nobody's going to be watching, but he loves his Lucha Libre is what I'm trying to get at. He loves his Lucha Libre wrestling, but yet he's got two of the world's greatest, if not number 1 and 2, on his roster, and he's planning on actively not using them. I don't know what a hypocrite is, man, but I would say if you look in the dictionary, Tony Khan's name is going to show up next to the definition of hypocrite. The mental health I talked about with not using someone like Ricky Starks and other talent there not being used, that it's in the same situation as Ricky Starks. What do you think this is going to do to the mental health of Rey Fenix? Is it going to make him feel good about himself? No, it's not. Some of that mental health is probably going to bleed onto his brother because they feel the same thing for each other. One feels something, the other feels it. What do you think that's going to do to Penta, seeing that his brother is suffering and Penta's having a great, flourishing career, great new start for himself in WWE? That's going to affect both of them. Everybody looks at the headline and say, he's doing Rey Fenix bad. You don't think this is going to affect Pentagon Jr. mentally just the same way it's affecting Rey Fenix? I don't get it. And then it all boils down to Tony is frivolously spending money. For what? You're paying this guy to sit at home to not utilize probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest luchadors in all of the world. You're paying him to sit home and do nothing for you. I don't know, man, but the stereotypes that Tony Khan finds himself in on social media, rich, spoiled fucking billionaire who's got a pro wrestling promotion and is nothing more than a vanity project. Man, you want to defeat those fucking stereotypes, but then you want to do this? You're paying this man to sit at home to do nothing. I find that to be fucking absolutely just batshit mental. I don't know how you have Rey Fenix on your team and you don't use him. But Tony won't use him because he knows where Rey Fenix is going. Tony knows exactly where Rey Fenix is going. If Penta is in WWE, there's no doubt about it that Rey Fenix is going to WWE. No doubt about it. He would rather do what he does to the talent because of his own childish, petty behavior, man. Tony is not a boss. Tony just wants acceptance from anybody and everybody. He wants this acceptance. He wants to be known as something, and he's nowhere near what we all thought he should have been. He is slowly becoming Vince McMahon day by day, week by week, month by month, year over year. The obsession might not be up front and center, but the obsession with WWE is so blatant that now it's affecting the roster and talents like Rey Fenix and Ricky Starks and God knows who else backstage who's not getting the opportunity that they were promised in the original vision of AEW. And now whatever this AEW is, it nowhere resembles what we thought was AEW and nowhere near the company that we initially fell in love with. This is a disgusting situation. If you are not using him and there are no plans to use him, then let him go. Why are you wasting valuable resources to keep someone at home and there's more negatives that come along with it than there are basically no positives and all negatives to this situation. And Tony Khan as a boss, he is an absolute grade A failure as far as what he's doing to lead this company. A friend and a confidant, he's getting low grades in that as well with every story we hear that resembles this story and the Ricky Stark story. Absolutely disgusting in every sense of the word. And Tony Khan, as a boss, as a CEO, should be fucking ashamed. Look yourself in the mirror and realize why everything in AEW isn't so great that you think it is. Everybody wants to project that everything is great in AEW. Look yourself in the mirror. The answer to all of your problems will be staring at you right back at you. It's not Rey Fenix's fault. It's not Ricky Stark's fault. It's not my fault. It's not the fans' fault. It's not the IWC's fault. It's not WWE's fault. It's not Paul Levesque's fault. Whose fault is it? It's Tony Khan's. He's run the company into the ground. to a point where you look at Dynamite on Wednesday night in Chicago, 3,000 plus people in Chicago, silent as a fucking Sunday mass at church. This company has had the largest fall from grace I have ever seen, and it's fucking sad to see what AEW has become going into 2025. Restore the feeling? They don't fucking know what that feeling is, and there's nowhere in sight where that feeling is going to return. Thank you guys for all your support. If you guys did enjoy today's video, please hit that thumbs up down below. Try for 1,000 likes. Hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell for all notifications. Make sure you guys go check out all of the great content on the channel this week with more to come, man. I'll be live tonight for Friday Night SmackDown, and I'll be live as live could be Saturday night after Survivor Series, man. Going to be a big week, and I got you guys covered right here on Off the Script. Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think of this ridiculous Rey Fenix situation, as they got no plans for poor Rey Fenix on AEW television. I'll see you guys tonight for Friday Night SmackDown live on Off the Script.